Welcome back into NBA Finals pregame presented by First National Bank. Joined today by Noah Dalzell of SB Nation. Noah, thanks for coming on with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Celtics up 2-0 right now, sitting pretty. Just from the first two wins at home, what are your general takeaways from how they've played so far this NBA Finals?
Yeah, I've been really impressed by their defense. This is a Dallas Mavericks team that came into this series playing really well. And I think from Porzingis' rim protection to just the individual defense by players like Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown, been super impressed. And then offensively, I think, obviously they haven't shot the ball great. And I think individually players like Jason Tatum have struggled a little bit. But ball movement has looked great. And I like the process that they're undertaking. And so they get hot. I think they could put this away relatively easily.
You mentioned the shooting. Is it fair to say the Celtics maybe haven't played their best brand of basketball or their A game yet this NBA Finals?
Yeah, I think particularly in game two, they made a lot of mistakes. So it's less that they weren't, I think the intentions were there, the process was there, but the shooting was obviously not. I mean, they shot 26% from three in game two. So normally that's the kind of game that you would think that they would lose. And obviously in this case, they came out on top. And so, yeah, they haven't reached their ceiling of how well they can play. The thing is, I don't think Dallas has either. So it's a question of which team is going to kind of get to their best form first.
They say the series doesn't start until a team wins on the road, too. The Celtics, though, 6-0 on the road this postseason. How have they, do they turn it up a notch or do they just not drop off when they leave the Garden?
Yeah, I mean, over the last few years, they've been better on the road in the playoffs than at home. It's one of those things that I don't know if anybody has the answer to it. We've asked Joe Mazzulla, we've asked Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they always say, like, we don't really know. I think there's an element of a lot of times their backs are against the wall when they're going on the road because they just dropped one at home that they probably shouldn't have. In this case, it's a little bit different because obviously they're up 2-0, and so they don't have that same level of like panic meter. Like last year in the playoffs, they were constantly going on the road, like on the brink of elimination. But certainly you would think, and from everything we've heard and seen so far, there is no sense of complacency from this team. They recognize that a 2-0 lead can quickly turn, and in part that's because Drew Holiday has been on the other side of that. He's been down 0-2 in a playoff series, right? So, and come back in the finals. So I expect that they're going to come out with a lot of fire and a lot of energy and continue their winning ways on the road because they've been a historically great road playoff team these last few years.
It could be a different team than we're seeing from games 1 and 2. I'm going to preface this for our viewers. This interview is being pre-recorded. So rather than asking you about Kristaps Porzingis' status, if he's good to go tonight or if he's not good to go, how has he impacted how the Celtics play this NBA Finals?
He's been huge. I mean, I've said from the beginning, I think even without him, they can get this done and they will get this done. Even if he hadn't played games 1 and 2, but the numbers are there, he plus 25 in the minutes that he's been on the court, even when he's been sitting. So, and that matches the eye test. Sometimes those numbers I think are a little bit flawed, but game one, he checks into the game midway through the first, completely changes the complexion of that game on both ends. You've seen just the way he can space the floor, the way he's exploiting mismatches. And then as a rim protector, he's made things really uncomfortable for players like Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and disrupting lobs and all of that. So yeah, he's been an absolute game changer, albeit in limited minutes. That's the reality of it. But they're going to be prepared to go without him. And I think that they should be fine without him. It just puts more of a toll on players like Al Horford. And then obviously you have to throw someone in from the bench, whether that's Luke Kornet or Xavier Tillman that otherwise it wouldn't have been.
Talking about the Mavericks here, just pivoting. Luka Doncic has been doing it all, still down 0-2. How much more does he have to do, or who has to really step up? Who do you look at on the Mavericks roster and say this guy needs to do more?
Yeah, I don't think he's playing at his best still. He obviously has put up bigger numbers in games 1 and 2, but we've seen the way he can really take over a game and down the stretch. Both of the fourth quarters in games 1 and 2, he was kind of a non-factor. And so he's had these bigger starts and then he's kind of tapered off. And that's something that has stood out to me as a place that he's probably going to change because he's historically a clutch basketball player, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if he has some big fourth quarters here on this 2-game homestand. And then defensively, I think he has a lot of room for improvement. I think by now we've all seen the clips of him getting blown by on drives, and I think Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown have kind of had their way with him. And so there is definitely, I'm sure he's been watching film and can see that these are places where he can, he can be a little bit better. And then as a playmaker, he was a lot better in game 2. Game 1 had 1 assist, which was a historically low number for him. So I think we're seeing a decent version of Luka Doncic right now, but he has another a gear that he can take, and that's going to be dangerous for Dallas. Not to mention the fact, I think outside of him, everybody struggled, right? Kyrie, the role guys. So I think Dallas can do a lot better and play a lot better than they have so far.
Awesome. So Dallas room for improvement, Celtics room for improvement. Looking forward to Game 3 and Game 4 on Friday from Dallas. We'll see what happens there. Noah, thanks for coming on with us. We have more NBA Finals pregame coming up next. Stay with us.